series is on cardiac assessment. And here we'll talk about how you physically assess a patient with cardiac disease. The heart is an organ that weighs about a pound, and it's about the size of your fist. And it sits in the midline in the chest, leans a little bit to the left area in the chest, and it sits principally between the second intercostal space and the fifth intercostal space. A few areas on here that are important to highlight are the aortic area, where you would hear the heart sounds most distinctly of the aortic valve over the aortic area. The pulmonic space, where you would hear the pulmonic valve. Also moving down the heart, you'd hear the right ventricle or the tricuspid valve opening and closing here most distinctly. And then moving down to the left side of the body, to the left ventricle or the mitral valve would be heard most distinctly here in the fifth intercostal space. This is otherwise known as a point of maximal impulse, or PMI, or the apex of the heart. Now, for patients who don't have any cardiac illness, and you're just doing a basic assessment, it's probably safe to say you can listen in an apical space, or the apex of the heart. But for a complete cardiac assessment, you should start at the aortic with the flat side of your stethoscope, non-bell rather. Listen here, then listen in the aortic to pulmonic, over to the right ventricle, and then on down to the LV. Turn the bell over so that now you'll turn your stethoscope over, so you'll listen with the bell come on back up with the LV to the RV, back up to the pulmonic and the aortic, listening more distinctly with your bell for any murmurs, any extra heart sounds that you might hear other than the customary lub-dub. Now, for patients who have healthy hearts, the heart is displaced a little to the left, as I said, laterally, and in the fifth intercostal space, mid-clavicular line. As you'll come to see with patients with congestive heart failure, as the heart gets bigger and more boggy and bulkier, it drifts on down. And some people, their PMI can actually extend to the seventh intercostal space, and laterally, much more so, almost under the axillary line, if you will. So these landmarks here in a healthy person are important to note, and then we'll see as time goes on how pathology can change these natural occurring landmarks. An episode that I think is helpful for students, an exercise for students to conduct, is to draw the heart. And I think it's helpful for students to actually take a piece of paper and draw a box, and then make 4 squares in that box, and use those 4 squares to represent the 4 chambers of the heart. And then trace how blood enters from the body into the right atrium, into the right ventricle, out to the lungs, and then comes back in, say, to the left atrium and left ventricle, and then back out to the body again. And do this until you're consistently familiar with this, because it will help you immensely when we talk about congestive heart failure with its various